Hello students, today in this lecture we will discuss about milling cutter terminology. As we have discussed in our previous lecture, there are different number of milling machines are available and that milling machine uses different milling cutters to perform milling operations. So now to understand how this milling cutter helps to remove the material, one must need to understand the milling cutter terminology. Now to understand this, let us have a look at this simple figure which shows the basic overall teeth available on the milling cutters. Now in normal cases, we have just a simple idea that any of the cutter have this type of curvature and this curvature helps to remove the material. But now if we see from this figure, you can see over here there are mainly three different lining that connects or that forms this milling cutter. This is one, this is second, and this one is third. Similarly, if I draw over here, if we draw, this one is the first, second and third. This way, by forming these three different lining, this milling teeth is available. And this teeth helps to remove the material from the workpiece. Now to understand this, let us have a look at simple 2D figure of this milling cutter and we will compare with this figure shown over here. So now as you can see in this second figure, the arrangement of teeth is shown over here and as you can see it has three sections available on its periphery. This is one, second and third, and these three parts helps to remove the material from the workpiece. Now if we see simple terminologies that are available in milling cutter, we will start with the basics. First one, as you can see in this figure, this internal section forms the one circle and this circle is called as the root circle and the diameter of this circle shown over here, its diameter is called as the root diameter. So this is the first terminology, what is root diameter. So as we have shown on this figure, you can understand very easily what is the root diameter. Similarly, the outer circle that is shown over here by dashed lines at this point. So this outer circle passes from the tip of the tooth over the periphery and this circle is available at the outside portion. That's why diameter of this circle is called as the outside diameter. So this is outside diameter. So these are the main two. First, simple based on diameter point of view, internal form of the teeth that forms the circle, that is called as the root diameter, and the outer form of the teeth, it is called as the outside diameter. Now let us have a look at this another parts, this particular section which helps during the cutting operation and for the flow of the chip. This particular portion is called as the face of the tooth. So this is nothing but the face of the tooth. Similarly, if you can see, there are three parts available as we have discussed. So this first particular part which helps during the cutting operation and also helps to avoid the rubbing or friction action between the workpiece and the cutter, this particular area is called as the land. It is known as the land, and remaining portion available at this back portion of the tooth, and that's why this portion is called as the back of tooth. So we have seen main three another parts. First one is land, second one is back of tooth, and third one is the face. So again, this first portion is called as the land, entire back section remaining of these is called as the back of the tooth, and this particular portion is called as the face. So these are the another terminology available on milling cutter. Similarly, now for any of the cutting operation, as we have discussed in our chapter 1 in single point cutting tool, some of the angles are most important to understand material removal from the workpiece. So we will see over here further most important angles available in this milling cutter. So now first of all, have a look at this point. This vertical line forms a certain angle with the face of the tooth, and the angle between this vertical line and face of the tooth, this angle is nothing but the radial rake angle. It is called as the radial rake angle. So this is the first angle which helps to remove the material and which is major important angle to remove the material from the workpiece. So again, angle between this vertical line and face of the tooth, that is nothing but the radial rake angle. Now let us have a look at another angle. If you can see, if we draw horizontal line at this point, so first area that is we have named as land, this area makes a certain angle with this horizontal line, and this line or this angle is called as the relief angle. So this angle is relief angle, and we have seen in our chapter 1 this relief angle helps to reduce the rubbing or friction action between the workpiece and the cutter. So this helps to remove material from workpiece very easily and provides pointing edge to remove the material. So this second angle is called as the relief angle. Again, if we see with this horizontal line, this second line, just a minute, this second line forms a certain angle, and this angle is called as the primary clearance angle. So this is nothing but the primary clearance angle. So this second line makes the angle with horizontal, that is called as the primary clearance angle. And similarly, this third line makes a certain angle with the workpiece. So the angle formed by this third line with horizontal, and this angle is called as the secondary clearance angle. So it is called as the secondary clearance angle. Then we have seen three different angles from the back of tooth and land. We will see it again. First, if we draw horizontal line over here, right, this horizontal line makes angle with this first line or first face of the tooth, and this angle is called as the relief angle. So that is nothing but the relief angle. Similarly, this second line makes a certain angle, and this third line makes certain angle with this horizontal axis. So this first angle is called as the primary clearance angle, and this second angle is called as secondary clearance angle. So up to now we have seen main four major angles. First one is relief angle, second one is primary clearance angle, secondary clearance angle, and rake or radial rake angle. This angle will help to remove material from milling cutter, and based on these angles available, there are different milling cutters are also available based on the variation of these angles. So these are major angles which are important to understand this milling cutter terminology. Now another point, that is this first tip, this tip point helps to remove the material from workpiece, and this tip is called as the cutting edge. So it is called as cutting edge, which helps to remove the material, or we can say it as also cutting point or cutting tip. Now if we assume this cutter rotates in anti-clockwise direction as shown over here, so what happens if workpiece available over here and it rotates in anti-clockwise direction, so it removes material from the workpiece, and the removed material in the form of chips moves in this particular form. So these entire sections or the gap available between these teeth helps for the removal of chips from the cutter, and that's why this particular section or this gap is called as the chip removal gap. So this gap is called as the chip removal gap, or we can also see it as the chip space, means it helps to remove the chip from this particular section. Now again, if you say, as we have discussed, this is the root circle and the diameter of this circle is called as the root diameter. Similarly, over here certain radius is available which helps for easy movement of the chip, and this radius as it available at the root circle, so that's why this radius is called as the root radius. So it is named as the root radius. So here we have seen two another parameter. First one is the chip removal gap and another one it is the root radius. So these are the major different terminologies that are most important as a milling cutter point of view. So if we further discuss about certain particular sections from simple terminology, now as you can see over here, there is a certain gap between these teeth, and as you have studied in your gear portion, the gap between these consecutive teeth is nothing but the pitch. So it is called as the pitch, and as this internal section, many of the time keyways are provided to mount on particular shaft for machining operation. So at this portion, if this type of shape is shown over here, then it is called as the keyways, which is provided for proper fixing on the shaft. So these are the last important terminologies which are most important as a milling cutter point of view. So now last angle that is important to understand this milling cutter, that is the angle between this face and back of the tooth, and this angle is called as the lip angle. So this angle is nothing but the lip angle, which is the angle between this face and back of the tooth. So let us summarize the main important angles that we have discussed. That is, first one is rack angle or radial rack angle. Second one is relief angle. Now third one is primary clearance angle. Primary clearance angle. Fourth one, that is the secondary clearance angle. Fifth one is lip angle. So these are the major important angle which are most important as a milling cutter point of view. So keep all this terminology in mind, which will be helpful to you in GTO examination also, and this milling cutter terminology is also important for an examination point of view. So in this lecture We have discussed about this milling cutter terminology and which are the major important parts or major important angles available on this milling cutter. So looking forward to see you all in our next lecture. Up to then, thank you.